Hi, welcome to another episode of In Brandon. I'm your host, Kevin Spooner, and today we are talking to one of WCGTV's best friends, and actually maybe one of my friends too. You know what, I don't think there's anybody here that doesn't like our next guest. He's just one of those people that gets along with everybody. He's a wonderful person. I can't wait to introduce him to you. But first, I'm going to tell you, he's here to make a worldwide announcement that is going to blow you away.
Kevin, actually, it's only a Canadian election.
Okay, so he's here to make a Canadian announcement that's going to blow the doors off.
Well, it's just really for Brandon-Souris area.
He's going to make an announcement that's going to blow the doors off of the Brandon-Souris area. This is going to... Can't wait.
Actually, it's already been announced in the Brandon Sun once.
It's been in the Brandon. Is there anybody that doesn't know?
Well, maybe just you, Kevin.
Oh, well, our friend came all the way to WCGTV just for me. He's the best guy ever. Say hello to my good friend, Quentin Robinson from the federal NDP party. Pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks very much. It's a pleasure to be here, Kevin.
I'm so glad to finally get to speak with you. Federal elections, huge news. Everybody's talking about it.
Indeed.
I'm sure you're getting a lot of media exposure, media attention.
Yes, indeed.
I'm kind of curious, because I know you from some of the shows, the other shows that we've filmed. I know that you're a very down-to-earth fellow. I think that's a fair statement.
I take that as a great compliment.
I appreciate that.
A man of the earth in different ways, for sure.
So where I'm
going with my farming roots.
With your farming roots,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. Down-to-earth is a great way to describe you. What I'm curious about is how your life changes between election mode and regular Quentin, down-to-earth, country bumpkin kind of. I know, I love that word too.
Yeah, right.
It could mean so many things.
It could mean many things,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's a derogatory term, but I wear the badge of country person in my roots and in my heart. I wear that with pride. It's good to be country folk, for sure.
Exactly.
Indeed,
I think you've found the subtext of that word,
for sure.
Because farmers, people in the country. What I loved about being in the country is they don't care what's going on in the city. They're already in the best possible environment that they could possibly make for themselves, and they don't need anybody else to make it any better.
It's you're there because that's the life you want.
Right.
And you're there because you're a strong, independent person who prides themselves on the ability to survive challenges, and sometimes with not a lot of support, except for the neighbors that surround you. And therefore, for me, in my heart, this is what I've always loved about that, is community is so important. The smaller the place, the more important community becomes. You need each other. And while you're a strong, independent person on your own, everybody knows we need our neighbors, and that, in a nutshell, is a real attractive picture of what it means for me to live in the country.
Well, I think there's an element of self-reliance built into that.
Absolutely. You need a ton of self-reliance.
Yeah. And the self-reliance that you develop on the farm makes you a valuable person to your neighbors. So when your neighbors are down on their luck, they're going to look for somebody that they can lean on, and you really want to be that person.
Indeed, yeah. And beyond that, when it comes time for young people who have been raised on the farm, if they decide, okay, farming is not the career for me, and they wander off to the city to look for another career, my experience has been from very early on that when they go to get a job, employers often say, like, this person has a lot of skills and a lot of self-reliance. So this must be a country guy, right? And I've heard that again and again from employers, and I've experienced that in employers' response to me, you know, when I was getting jobs off the farm as a young person, before I started farming as a career for myself in my first career, yeah.
And is there a difficult transition going from a low, you know, a steady state to ramping up to a federal election campaign?
So
that must be a massive...
You asked what's the same and what's different.
Yeah.
What's the same is the person that I am.
Yeah.
That stays the same through a campaign. But what's different is, I usually tell people these days it's like being shot out of a cannon every morning.
Every morning.
It is a hectic pace because it needs to be. The campaign period is only short. I think we had 35 days, and each one of those days is precious because
there's not many of them.
I really need to get my message out about who I am. I need to get the NDP message out about what our party plan is, and people need to hear that to be well informed when they go to the ballot box, and because that's how elections work best. And like, it's so great that you're doing this here at WCG TV, because you're the local source in the age of disinformation on the internet, right?
I've heard of it.
You've heard of it, right? Here's a place where people we know are searching out the real story on the things that are really important in our lives, and so you're helping with what I and what we need to do during an election cycle is to be able to get the word out so people know who I am. What's the NDP about? This is such a valuable service, and so glad
Well, I try to perform the village idiot to the best of my ability, because I think every village needs an idiot, and I'm happy to be the Brandon's idiot.
The village servant. I'm not going to call you an idiot.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I don't mind. But like you say, misinformation, I can't know what's true, and I don't think anyone else can know what's true, which is why we have to have conversations so that we can figure it out for ourselves what the truth is.
Absolutely.
But if there's no talk, then it's a lot tougher to find out what the truth is. But it's wonderful, wonderful way for me to break into my next question, which is, why aren't you ecstatic about the environment? I would think the NDP would be the party who would be the most excited about the recent developments in the world of sustainable living. What I'm referring to, of course, is that climate change is now over.
Oh.
It's completely done.
Hey, Kevin.
What?
Kevin, you know I love you, but I mean, sometimes you just kind of fall off the edge there, right? And like this is one of those moments.
Did I just idiot myself into the village?
I'm not going to say that.
Oh, I'm not going. Okay, I'm not
but
quite.
I'm going to say you're mistaken. Let's put it that way.
You're not an idiot, you're just mistaken. Okay, right. I'm picking up what you're laying down.
Yeah.
I appreciate the kind words. What I'm referring to, of course, is the announcement that China has completed their test and development phase of their thorium reactors, and they are now expanding to permanent, full-sized construction. And they plan to power the entire country's electricity, all of China, for 60,000 years with the available thorium reserves they already have on hand.
Right.
And that represents a lot of CO2 being removed from the environment. And then, of course, there's the follow-on effects as other countries copycat China's success. If they are ultimately successful, the world may follow suit in short order, which represents probably a massive decline in CO2 emissions, which is something I think we should. Obviously, there's more work to be done, but I think the promise is very uplifting, and I think it's a good news story that we could probably talk about.
The encouraging thing about stories like this is that they do offer a hope for something different than what we have now.
Exactly.
And So yes, in a world of well, we don't call it disinformation, of a variety of informations that come to us, it's important, to be able to sort through the details of these things. Every 5 minutes, somebody's saying, nuclear fusion has now been solved. And they say it's only like 10 years until it's providing all our power. Yeah. And that announcement is made every 10 years. Yeah. And we don't have it yet.
10 more years, right. I promise. You said that 10 years ago.
Indeed, yeah. So sometimes these announcements pan out, and sometimes these announcements don't. And
very true.
With something this new being announced, we don't know where it is in the stage of development, but we do know some things. What we know is it's now 2025, and we know that the International Panel on Climate Change has told us by 2030 we have to have hit a target of reducing our greenhouse gas emissions by 50%. Mm-hmm. So unless these reactors are coming on board later this year, right, okay, they're not going to be the silver bullet for what we need, because once the greenhouse gas is emitted into the environment, it doesn't go away for a long time.
Right.
If we miss our 2030 target, what that means is we've locked ourselves into, at this stage, somewhere between 1.5 degrees increase and 2 degrees increase. If we miss our 2050 target, it'll be even worse, right?
Right. Yeah.
So we have solutions that we can use right now, and the NDP plan is to use those.
The ones we have, yeah.
The ones that we have, and keep a close eye and keep encouraging new developments that can be part of the picture. But it's too late to rely just on one silver bullet, right? Yeah, it's like that movie, Don't Look Up, or yeah. Maybe we have one chance to save the Earth, and it's to shoot a rocket ship at the comet that's going to hit us, yeah. And then that'll save us, and then somebody messes up and doesn't launch the rocket, right? We can't be in that position. We have to use every tool that is scientifically acknowledged as being work. We can't rely on supposed untested solutions that are just in the trial phase.
And I would have to chime in agreement, because any single point of failure is not a solution.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. So I do understand and I agree with you that there are other fronts that we need to work on.
Yes. Yeah.
One of the fronts that is at the top of the news cycle lately, of course, is all of the Teslas that are getting torched all over the North America and the world now. Yeah. Actually, I think we're safe to say. Which is another reason why I enjoy your company so much, because you found a solution to the Tesla problem. What was your way of getting around that sticky little Tesla problem? Because I know you're an EV enthusiast.
You could do what I did, which was to buy a Chevrolet Bolt EV.
Now that's a different way to go about doing things.
And some have chosen a Hyundai, and some have chosen Kia, and pretty much all the major auto manufacturers have come out now with EVs. There's an explosion in the number of choices that are available for consumers right now. So definitely that anyone who's in a position to be able to buy a new car and say now is the time, then an electric vehicle is a way to do it. People say, oh, but that's going to be too expensive. And as part of my work with Sustainable Brandon,
right,
as which I think you know about,
I do.
And with the Knox Green Team, I've developed a presentation which I've taken around the community wherever I can find a few ears that are ready to listen, to let them know that while the sticker price may be higher at the outset, the savings in fuel costs within a relatively short period are going to make it so if you can't afford to buy an EV, you also can't afford to buy a gas car.
It's so true. Yeah. And Brandon has a fairly well-represented commuter population, people that come in from surrounding communities. And those are, like you say, the gas bills that are represented
Right,
by those commuters is outstanding, and it all is erased by EVs.
Yeah, and not only that, a friend of mine who owns an EV lives in Brandon, but came from the farm, and most days will get in his EV and drive back out to the farm to help their son.
You're kidding.
Drive back in, and they've used their EV to commute
to the farm.
the rural area,
to the rural,
and back to Brandon, right? So it works both ways. The road does go both ways. Folks from the city don't always remember that, right? But since I spent most of my life not in Brandon, 9 years in Brandon now, which has been a marvelous 9 years.
Well done.
And before that, it was all in smaller rural communities. And so, yes, I remember that the road goes both ways.
Yeah, well, we're glad you're here.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, it's nice that you...
It's great to be here. Brandon is such a great city. Chose Brandon because of all the services that are available, but in a very manageable package that where you can be almost anywhere within 15 minutes, and no big commutes within the city.
That's my favorite part.
Marvelous city.
Yeah, if I have to be somewhere at say 10 o'clock, I leave at 5 minutes to 10, and I am always early.
Yeah, it's great.
Such a quick way to get where you need to go. Let's get back on our conversation. We talked about the expense of EVs, and of course that's one of the downsides of EVs that a lot of people are feeling, that they're just too pricey. So costs, we really need to get on top of costs, and the NDP do have a plan for keeping life affordable.
Indeed, we do.
Now, there was some news about the BC having an issue with their credit rating. At the federal level, how can the NDP kind of keep us away from bad news stories like that? It's credit ratings not seen as a positive direction.
Yeah.
So is there a federal plan to help out the provinces when they come into these types of banking issues?
Yeah. First, maybe I could just
probably educate us on the backstory.
Set the context.
Yes, that's perfect.
A little bit for this discussion, because I remember back in the 2015 election when Tom Mulcair was running for the national NDP and Justin Trudeau for the Liberals. And in the questions that would happen, always interviewers or people in the debate would ask the NDP, well, how are we going to deal with the runaway spending that you're going to do? Yes. And Mulcair was saying, no, here's their actual plan, right? Yeah. It's to balance the budget. And at the same time, Justin Trudeau was saying, it's time to invest in Canada, so we're going to spend. Nobody gave him even a moment of grief. It was all, yay, Mr. Trudeau, yay. So sort of in the background in a lot of people's mind is, oh, well, naturally NDP is going to be spendthrift. This is not the case. Tommy Douglas showed that years ago, and we know that from Gary Doer years in Manitoba. There's no more connection between deficit spending in the NDP than there is with the Liberals or the Conservatives. But back to your specific question. You're ready
now we're all warm up. We're getting somewhere.
Yeah, there are a couple of things that bankers like, so they're not going to change credit ratings. And one is a strong economy.
Yes.
And the other is efforts to keep budgets reasonable. And
I think you're onto something there.
Absolutely, yeah. And you know what? Folks listening to this now, even if they're not bankers, like that too.
Exactly.
There's a reason for all that being connected. So the NDP understands that. I understand that. I've been a thrifty guy all my life.
Really?
Yes. Only ever borrow for the big things when you want to buy a farm, or you want to buy a house, or you want to buy a new car, or a piece of essential business equipment. Yeah. And so you invest in things that are good investments and smart for your business. And if the business is your country, things that are smart for the business. So the NDP plan for the economy is going to help because it's focused on using Canadian non-tariffed resources with Canadian non-tariffed workers to build a Canadian economy. We know now that in this moment and for who knows how long, but long enough that we know now that we can't count on the biggest trading relationship that we've had.
Exactly.
We can never be totally trustworthy of that.
We should have never relied on them as heavily as we did.
Indeed.
And we're paying for it now.
Yeah, we're paying for it now. So two things to do about that, and one big one is to build the Canadian economy for Canadians and by Canadians. So that's a big part of the economic plan for the NDP. And the bonus there is, what that is, that people who are losing jobs in other sectors will now have jobs, good jobs, building the Canadian economy in Canada. And so we have resources. We have a lot of good carbon-friendly energy. We have lots of better metals and minerals that are essential for the green economy that we need to build. The infrastructure that we need to build, both conventional infrastructure and also carbon-reducing infrastructure. There is so much opportunity for that kind of economic development that there's absolutely no reason that we have to have a tanking economy because of tariffs. It would take a little while to get geared up, of course, but we can get there because we have got there in the past. There's a great book by Seth Klein, who I believe maybe have an attachment with the NDP party, but does a brilliant job called The Good War.
The Good War?
The Good War, in which he draws parallels between the Canada during the Second World War period and the times we're in now, when overnight, just as the Second World War is starting, Canada's economy had to be shifted on a dime from a peacetime economy to a wartime economy, and he lays out in great detail the processes that had to happen in order to make that happen, and it happened.
Yeah.
It was a transformation almost overnight in economic terms.
Yeah, all the men handed their lunch buckets to their wives, and they went to war, and the women went to work.
Yes, yeah, and companies that used to make frying pans made tanks, right?
Exactly.
And armored vehicles.
Yeah, stop what you're doing. Now your job is making tanks.
Now you're doing something else, right? This is not unheard of. We have a template for that. And we know how Canada emerged from the wartime years. We emerged with some debt, but we also emerged with such a vibrant economy.
Exactly. That
we were able to manage that and leave ourselves in good fiscal position as time went on, right?
Yeah.
So there is a template for that. And now, those are the years that people say, oh, I wish things were like the good old days. Those are the days they're talking about, right?
Yeah, when we all worked on our self-reliance.
Exactly.
That's when we were our most proudest.
Yes, and the other thing that was different then is billionaires, which there weren't any. It was millionaires, and that's how much time.
A millionaire was a billionaire back then.
The millionaire back then actually had to pay taxes, and now the billionaires are being sheltered from tax payment, right? So that's not fair. NDP is in it for people like you and me and like the vast majority of Canadian citizens. And if billionaires have to pay something for that, I'm good with that. How are you with that, Kevin? Right?
I'll spend billionaires' money. I got no problem with
that. So keep a good economy, and then just make sure that that you're keeping a balance, if not balanced books year by year, making sure that in worldwide terms, that whatever deficit or whatever debt is accumulated to do that are within manageable means, and there's ways of measuring that. And right now, although we do have debt and deficit, we're still the best in the G7. So we start off in not a bad place to begin from.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that story. That's actually quite uplifting. And it makes me wonder, though, that we don't have a lot of time left, but there's something that I think the world, sorry.
Brandon-Souris.
Yes. I think there's something that that the people would like to be addressed, and that is, how is the NDP going to wash itself from the liberal stench that it covered itself with via the what did they call it? It was a partnership, a coalition.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, not a coalition, an agreement.
Yes, it was a loose agreement, to cooperate,
yes,
right?
Because,
so there might be some fallback of that because the
indeed,
Liberals they were kind of removed unceremoniously from power.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
Because there are, from time to time, I'm hearing people say that. Also, in this campaign, as I knock on doors, and I talk with people about that, there's also a lot of people who clearly understand that what the NDP did was they held the Liberals' feet to the fire to get some things that are super important. And everybody says, yes, I wanted that, and you delivered that. The beginning of the pharmacare plan. We want more, but we have free diabetes medication now and free birth control. So people with diabetes don't have to die of diabetes because they can't afford the drugs.
Wow.
That's life-saving.
Yeah.
That's life-changing.
No kidding.
Free birth control means that women, who I think most of us think should have the choice for reproductive rights, they actually have a choice, even if they don't have money. Yeah.
Okay.
These are huge things. We want more, but we got that. We got the beginning of a pharmacare plan, which has been the hope of the NDP and a hope of a lot of Canadians for a long time, and we got the beginnings of a dental care plan. Hey, some people might have noticed that teeth are actually part of our bodies, right? And just because they're in our mouth, for some reason they weren't covered yet, right? By Medicare. They need to be, and now that's begun. We have achieved those things. So I'd like voters to remember that. We also pushed on daycare available for $10 a day. These are huge things that most people wanted. I say almost all people wanted this kind of thing, right? So for people to remember that, we got value from a minority government like NDP always does. We have our universal health care system because NDP got value from a minority government.
I think that's a fair statement.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that answer.
The other fair statement, I think, is to the NDP didn't want to be in a minority government.
No, obviously.
Having to support the Liberals for anything.
I agree.
The Liberals didn't want to be in a minority government, having the NDP giving them a hard time.
Yeah, nobody wants a minority government.
The Conservatives, they didn't want that. They wanted to be in power. So, like 5 minutes after the election of 2021, the Conservatives wanted a new election, right?
Of course.
They wanted the taxpayers to put out $500 million so they could get in power.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
They'll do whatever it takes, yeah.
The NDP says the Canadian people didn't vote for that now. They're not going to vote for that 5 minutes from now. The Canadian people asked us to form a minority government and do our best to cooperate for a change, right? And because just about everybody I talk to, and maybe you know this too, is it's like, why don't these guys and these men and women, folks of all genders in Parliament, why are they not trying to cooperate and just do something good for the country, right?
Yeah.
At that level, that's what Canadians wanted, and that's what we tried to do. And we hope that people who think of it in that context can understand that we were trying to be faithful to what the Canadian people wanted when they went to the ballot box that time. And we hope to use the influence and power that we had to achieve as much as we could for things that we also know that Canadian people wanted. And when the Liberals weren't playing ball with that anymore, then we said, we're done, as we did.
As we did.
Yeah.
I would have to agree with everything you said. The only thing I would add is that while researching for this interview, I did go through a few Wikipedia pages.
Yeah.
I don't know if you trust those Wikipedia types, but they
a lot
did
of
say
time they're okay.
they did have something positive to say about the NDP, and that they
Isn't
said,
that nice?
well, they said your track record, the NDP fiscal track record,
Yes.
is actually not bad. Like you said, a lot of people accuse the NDP of being spendthrifts.
Yeah.
And when you put it down on paper, NDP comes out not too shabby for balanced budgets.
Yes.
They have a pretty good track record.
At the national level, you may have noticed that the NDP has never formed the government.
Right.
And you may have noticed that there's a big debt and deficit.
Yeah, I've
Who
noticed.
is responsible for that?
The guy who borrowed all the money is responsible.
Liberals and conservatives, right? So Wikipedia is right.
You heard it here first.
You heard it here first.
Well, Quentin, that's a wonderful wrap-up of the NDP in a nutshell, I think.
Right.
And what really struck me is while you were talking, you kind of look like Jack Layton just a little bit.
Well,
just
you know, I consider that the greatest of compliments.
He was a
Jack
wonderful
Layton
man.
Was a wonderful man.
Wonderful man.
And he was loved by folks in the party and people across the country. Obviously, giving 100 seats to the NDP. An interesting fun fact that you know that right now the NDP's is very low in the polls.
Yes.
The year that Jack Layton and this team won 100 seats, they started in about the same place.
Isn't that interesting?
It's a magical moment.
It's looking up, I know.
It's looking
Things
up
are
for us.
happening.
That's right.
This is the one.
Yes, and in this riding, we're in good shape, and we can pull it off. We can.
I think you can pull it off.
I can pull it off.
I don't know about the NDP as a whole.
Yeah, but here,
because everybody's different. Every
in
candidate
this,
is different.
yes,
but I know
across
in
the country.
Souris, they are
Brandon-Souris.
well represented.
Yes, indeed.
By the NDP, I can assure them of that. I haven't met any other candidates either, though, so it's kind of an unfair statement. But from my personal point of view,
Right. Well, thank you for your personal opinion on that.
they have Souris
and
as
that
an
compliment,
excellent candidate in
Thank you
Quentin
very
Robinson. Well, thank you for coming down.
Yeah, it's my pleasure entirely. Thanks for the invitation. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak in this way to the voters of Brandon-Souris, and look forward to representing you in the Parliament and making life better for everyone in this riding.
Thanks, Jack. I mean, no, I'm kidding. Well, I think that's all the time we have.
Yeah.
So we do have to say goodbye, unfortunately. But maybe we'll go for a spin in an EV, go for ice cream.
That'd
Who
be
knows?
great.
Anything can happen around WCG TV. Take care. See you next time.